Hello, everyone. My name is Michel. I'm delighted to be meeting you tonight and to be hosting Matt Eagles on the topic of positivity in adversity. 46 years living with Parkinson's, which is an amazing amount of years. It's a real inspiration for us all. So I would like to start by saying a few things. As you just heard, the session is being recorded so that those who are not able to join us tonight are able to watch it on YouTube. I'd like to remind everyone that the information provided during the session is for educational purposes only. So clearly, if you're seeking medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, this is not the right place. You should consult a medical professional. There will be questions, of course, during the interview of Matt, but there will be also room for you to add questions to the chat that we will pick up as we go towards the end. Maybe just a few words about our group. Some of us met at a tutorial on nutrition and Parkinson's in the summer 2020 and decided to stay in touch. And we decided to name our small group No Silver Bullet. That was really the recognition of the fact that actually the only way to manage our symptoms is by a holistic approach. There wouldn't be a single silver bullet that would take care of the problem, but actually by combining their various approaches, we can improve our well-being. And then at the end of last year, we started having external speakers every couple of weeks, people like Matt, who help us think holistically about the various ways of managing our symptoms, who can inspire us as well. So all sessions are recorded, as I said. They're posted on the YouTube channel. If you go and have a look at the chat, you will see the details there of the YouTube channel. We also have an Instagram page maintained by Mark Lambert and a Twitter feed that you can also go and consult if you want. So let's go back to today's topic. Diagnosed with Parkinson's when he was age 7. I just said 7, this is amazing, early age. Matt has lived with the disease for 46 years and has become, by obligation, I guess, an expert in his own condition. Matt is a patient champion and motivator, a positivity activist, and to use the word that he coined, a possibilist, which he will explain later on. Matt had deep brain stimulation just over 15 years ago and is a keynote advocate of health technology, so we'll talk about that. And Matt also heads up a global wellness campaign called Parky Life, which is very close to his heart, which is a unique project helping people with Parkinson's and their families live brighter, happy lives. So let's just get started. And Matt, I'd like to start by asking you the obvious question. Can you tell us about being told you had PD at age 7? I mean, you were very young, but how did the doctors find out? What did it mean for you? And when did it really start to affect you?
It's quite a strange story, actually, because I actually only found out that it was the age of 7 a few years ago when I actually saw my digital health records. But it was before then that I began experiencing symptoms. I'll explain a little bit about what happened first. I started off with frozen shoulder, and I was also began walking on my tiptoes as well. My arm, and I call it my arm kind of T-Rex, to my left arm went like that a little bit, and I was trying to walk, which was really, really disconcerting. But I think the most obvious thing was I just couldn't balance. And for somebody at that age, and I was a very keen sports person, the age of 6, 7, and I was playing junior rugby for my local team, playing football with my friends. And it was strange because all of a sudden I was totally outrun by all my peers. I couldn't keep up with everybody else. I used to love playing football, and particularly as a goalkeeper. And I used to end up diving. My reactions were so slow. I ended up diving for the ball after the ball had actually gone in the net, which didn't make me very popular with my teammates, as I'm sure you can understand. But I was desperately making a genuine attempt for the ball. Now, they thought at first I'd got a brain tumor because obviously lack of balance, coordination was poor. I just couldn't stand still. In fact, my headmaster in assembly in infant school noticed that I just simply couldn't stand up in assembly in the first thing in the morning. And I kept on falling backwards. My mother, bless her, I mean, she thought I was messing about. She used to cut my toenails every Sunday, and I used to have to balance on one leg, which obviously for a young kid isn't that much of a problem, but I used to find it a terrible issue. And we had a towel rail by the side of where the toilet was with towels on, and it was always a bit loose, but I was trying to grab onto it to keep my balance, and my mum was hitting me, going, stop it, Matthew, stop messing about. And I was in floods of tears saying, I really can't stand up. So those are really the symptoms that were the biggest problem. But to be honest, Michelle, I didn't know I didn't know what Parkinson's was. Parkinson's, I know now what it is, but at the age of 7, all I wanted to do was be out playing with my friends. Yeah. And they could have told me I'd got giant elephant disease, which obviously isn't it, and it wouldn't have bothered me. All I was focused on, and I think all young children are focused on, is playing and getting on with their lives. So when I went to school and what have you, which I think I'm kind of moving on to another part of my life here, but I shall go back and try and explain, because I wasn't really and didn't take much notice of what the doctors were saying. My parents, however, must have had a really heavy burden to pay. But I've never really asked them strangely, and they've never really told me how they were feeling about the prospect that they're, because I was adopted as well, which is quite strange as well, but I was a second choice. And the irony is this: the first child they tried to adopt, they couldn't because he had an underlying health condition. And then this happens to me. So much of the worry, I thought it was a bloody inconvenience because I spent a lot of time in hospital. They proved that it wasn't a brain tumor through a scan. They proved it wasn't juvenile onset arthritis of the knees through scans as well. But, I didn't care what its name was. All I knew is it was a damn inconvenience.
You couldn't play with your friends as much as you wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. But not only could I not play with my friends, when I did play, I was like, it's the old story when you line up in a group of people and at school and you're always the last to be picked. Sometimes people wouldn't even mention my name, and I'd still be there going, yeah, I'm still here, pick me, because I really was that keen to play. I just wanted to be involved. I wanted to belong and be part of things,
So in that context, actually, you're talking about the early age, which was exactly my question. But actually, I'm really, really curious to hear a tiny bit looking at the wider perspective of your life and your age as you grew from a child to a teenager and maybe a young adult. When did Parkinson's suck the most, if you want? Was it as a child, as a teenager, when you tried to build your social life, your professional life?
I was always very gregarious as a young child. From a very early age, even sort of 7, 8, I don't know what I'm doing this with my hands, maybe it's more expressive. From a very early age, I was given elocution lessons and speech and drama lessons. Now, I always say, and I'm not too sure what the truth is in it, but I suspect it is the truth. My mum, I mimic accents very quickly, and I can still do that. And I used to speak with a very, very strong Mancunian accent, which, even though my mother came from Manchester herself, she despises with a passion. So she sent me off to elocution lessons. I always remember the name of the lady was Mrs. Twig, which I found highly amusing as a young boy. But no, I used to have to compete in music and drama festivals. Now, because I couldn't stand up, it was like auditioning for, I don't know, Britain's Got Talent, but sitting down. I used to have to go in front of classes and recite poetry or do sight reading and Bible reading against other kids, and then they'd be marked, but super competitive.
Mhm.
But I was I found my certificates the other day from that era, and there's like Alderley Edge and Wilmslow and Alderley Edge drama festivals, Macclesfield drama festivals, Burnley drama festivals. I've got certificates from a lot of them, but one of the most poignant pictures was when I actually won, came first in the Alderley Edge. I think it was a prose reading, and I went, and I can still remember the name of the poem. It's called Noah and the Rabbit by Hugh Chesterman, and I won this trophy, and I was so proud. And my mum and dad wanted to take me into the garden to have a picture of it. Now I have got a copy of the picture on my computer, which I can't share at the moment, but I shall send to you, Michelle, and if you want to send that to people,
please.
But it shows me in a really strange kind of pose, because I'm kind of all lopsided. Maybe that had something to do with the horrible sandals Mum used to buy for me. But no, it was a tough gig growing up, and just not trying to be, because I really liked sport, and I was active with my friends, and we used to go making dens and swimming in reservoirs and but I was always, that's my wife's phone going in the background, if you can hear
we can't hear. No, we can't hear it.
Oh, that's good. So yeah, it's a tricky, but at school it was, I don't think I was that different. People used to use me as a bit of an excuse to be late for classes, because sometimes we had, the school was over quite a big complex that I went to. And in my first year, which would be now year 7, I believe, first year in senior school, I was dragged by some school friends into the classroom, and because I simply couldn't walk, and they lay me on the floor in front of the blackboard of the maths class that I was just attending, and all I wanted to do was get up and sit in the wooden desk where I was due to sit. But the teacher, we used to have to call her sir, she's very old-fashioned, made me lie under the blackboard for the whole lesson on my back on a wooden floor. So that was quite bizarre. Yes. And my Latin teacher used to call me dead legs. My history teacher used to call me sparrow legs. And that was accepted at that time. Yeah. And because I went to a grammar school, I had to pass an exam to get to this particular school, but that was kind of accepted. But yeah, it was a tough gig being possibly I wasn't quite the slowest, but I was more or less the slowest. But I've got a bit of a mischievous streak in me as well, which doesn't help when you're the slowest as well. So you can't always get away with what you think you can get away with. But I would say I was always encouraged to take part in anything. I was in the school choir. I played one of the workhouse children in Oliver in year 7 as well. But my part was just really to sit on a load of stairs during a song and not move. So that was okay for me. But I really enjoyed it. But it was tough, because I thought I was just as good as my peers, but I couldn't always do the things that they could do.
Do you find it basically things got a bit, I mean, of course, it's hard to isolate the evolution of the illness on the one hand and the evolution of perception, but talking about the evolution of perception and I would say how tough or easy life was, do you find that it has gotten easier as you progressed through the years to a young adult age?
I think I was accepted because I had a go at everything. So I desperately didn't want to be excluded from anything. And as it happened, my best friend at school, who lived around the corner from me, he, at the age of 12, had to have his leg amputated above the knee. So we used to do naughty tricks like hide people's gym kit in his false leg and stuff, so they get into trouble, and just little mischievous things like that. So they kind of, I didn't want the focus to be on me, you know, I really didn't. So I used to get involved in as much as I possibly could. Now, it actually, Parkinson's helped me growing up because my body was still developing. And we all know how difficult it is physically to maneuver ourselves. Obviously, in bed, you have to turn yourself over with your arms and use your own body weight. Mm-hmm. As I grew up, my shoulders and arms became exceedingly strong. And more so than many of my peers in the years above me as well. I had a very, very strong grip because I was so used to holding myself up to try and stop myself from falling over. And I began from the age of about 15 or so. I began regularly arm wrestling some of the bigger lads, trying to sort of prove to myself that I wasn't like this big weed that everybody thought I was. And I found the only person I couldn't beat in the whole year at the age of 15 went on to play rugby for England. So
you're pretty good.
So I was pretty, that used to get me kudos, but it's tricky. And I had the irony of it. I've had so many people link up with me on LinkedIn in fairly recent times, actually, say, "Oh, Matt, I'm really sorry I bullied you at school." And I was totally unaware of it. Mm-hmm. And the irony of this is we had one black kid in our year at school, just one black kid, and he was my friend. However, he punched me on the nose one time. I thought he was just messing about, and he made my nose bleed. And I was used to sort of falling over and knocking myself and having nosebleeds. It didn't really bother me, but he came back to me years later and apologized for punching me on the nose. So
that's amazing.
It's and I suppose one of my proudest moments at school was I ended up representing the school at basketball at the age of under 16 level. And I used to spend, when I was able, see, I think, you know, that we're going on about sort of being active, playing table tennis, singing. I was doing all these things as a young boy anyway, naturally. I had piano lessons. These are the things that I just did, maybe not very well, but these are the things I enjoyed doing, which was fantastic for I'm guessing, for my Parkinson's later in life.
Yes.
Now, so I'm used to talking in front of lots of people. I used to have to do Bible readings at Christmas in church in front of 1,400 people at school, you know, but I was sat down in a chair. I've sung in Chester Cathedral and Lincoln Cathedral, but when all the other choristers were walking in, I was sat in the stalls already set, so I didn't fall over it in my chorister's outfit.
It takes some planning, you know.
So
Can I zoom out a tiny bit, because actually we spent a bit of time on your earlier years and they're fascinating, but actually I just also want to make sure we have enough time to look at the
I do go on, I'm afraid. Yeah, sorry.
No. It's just more that actually I'm quite interested to understand from you, given that you have been diagnosed so early and you are now in your early 50s, as you said before. What has been the biggest challenge over the whole span of your life? Do you sort of is there something you identify as something you really had to get over that was a real obstacle?
I guess there is. I mean, I've never, how can I put this? I used to get incredibly frustrated, and I used to actually punch myself in my face, and just there, and this particular side of my face used to swell up and balloon because I used to get so, and I never used to do it when anyone was around. I used to do it in the privacy of my own home, and I used to just say that I'd fallen over, and people would accept it because that's what I did. I did fall over and just bang my head. No, that was it. So that was a tough gig. And that frustration, but I actually self-harmed a little bit as well in my late teens and 20s. Actually, that's one of the reasons actually why I have tattoos now, because it covers up some of the scars I caused to myself in my earlier years. So, and actually having the tattoos is very cathartic because it didn't hurt half as much as cutting myself with a knife. So I know that sounds harsh, but that's you can no.
We can see.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's tough. So that was a tough thing, but also I had really bad panic attacks as well, and having the treatment for that. So obviously, when I was off, I'd get into a massive panic and think, and my breathing. I honestly thought I was going to die several times. But I had occupational therapy with that and some psychological support. And I used to, ironically enough, we were talking about my first panic attack actually came at a football match. And I remember it's like it was yesterday. It was at Main Road. It was Manchester City against Arsenal. And I had a panic attack coming out of the game. And I just thought, I need to get some liquid in my mouth because otherwise, and I was almost at the stage of, it was a wet January, and I was almost at the stage of kneeling down into a puddle and like trying to throw the water in my mouth just to get some fluid in so I could swallow and try and regulate my breathing. Yeah, that was tough. So yeah, the self-harm and the panic attacks was a tough
It was
gig.
very tough. So looking at the other side of it, the other side of the coin, if you want, the more shiny side of the coin, what would you say has been your greatest success in the same way that yes.
There's one standout moment. I mean, I never thought anyone would take me on. I never thought I'd get married. I thought, who's going to have me? He's going to want to look after me, or who can I look after? But nobody's going to want somebody who's not reliable or whatever. Or that's what I was thinking at the time. Yes. So yeah, getting married is my proudest moment. I have to say, it really is. And she's not in the room at the moment, so I can. I'd say that if she was anyway, but
you can say how wonderful she is without her hearing it.
But also, just one other proud moment was I used to after I had DBS, I became a bit of a photographer, and I ended up becoming a photographer at the London 2012 Olympics, an official International Olympic Committee photographer. And I followed Team GB around the football teams, and I photographed them at Old Trafford 3 times, Wembley 3 times, and also the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. That was a pretty proud moment for me, that was.
It can be. So a question that has come up already quite a few times in preparation for this session today. Everyone is very curious to understand what is a normal day for Matt. And in particular, I think that there are a few angles. There is of course, we know that you engage professionally, but actually, do you exercise? What do you do? Do you consider nutrition, supplements? What do you eat special things? Do you do yoga, meditation? So tell us all about a
normal day for me over the last few years is I get up at a regular time, apart from weekends. I get up about 7 o'clock. I wake up at 6:30, have my meds. Well, my wife wakes up at 6 and gets up and goes and has a shower. And I say, I'm not going to get up just yet because I can't really anyway. So I have my meds at 6:30 and then get up at 7. Then I have one of the biggest, I'd say, but one of my biggest ball aches is I can't carry stuff. This is how I have to have drinks most of the time. Thermos mug, straw. But for breakfast, and it involves the nutrition, I have prunes. I have fresh prunes from a tin, by the way. Fresh prunes. I have a probiotic little drink. I have breakfast biscuits, which I share with the dog. She's really good at catching, actually.
Willingly or not willingly?
No, willingly. She mithers me. She's a chocolate Labrador, an elderly chocolate Labrador, and she's stuck in her ways. So she comes and nudges me when she feels it's biscuit time. It's, as far as nutrition is concerned, yes, I do, particularly in the morning, and it helps keep me moving, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise-wise, I try and get out with the. I can't walk with the dog anymore, but it's once a day I try and get it because I work from home. You see, most of 4 or 5 days a week. So I'm actually sat where I am now from about 8:30 in the morning till 5, 6, sometimes 7 o'clock in the evening. And so no, I don't really exercise. The only exercise I get is I like to have a routine every morning, and I take it's a bit anal, I'm afraid. I take the recycling out religiously every morning. I then wash the breakfast dishes, trying not to break them. I then go out and clear the garden of any materials that might need clearing up, which doesn't always end in a good way because bending down, I'm sure you get the story anyway.
You shared it on Twitter, I think.
Yes, it's not always the easiest of tasks when your balance isn't brilliant. So I do those 3 things. I live in a little terraced house, so I go up and down the stairs a lot, but it's not a regular exercise regime. That is something that would probably help me. But I do struggle anyway with. I mean, I can get around, but I have now a tattoo on the back of my shin, which is be the guru of slow. If I try and do anything too quickly, I end up flat on the floor. So I'm very, very I often count when I'm walking. I know exactly, it's 13 steps to the recycle bin. So, and I don't actually count my steps anymore, but if I did, I could probably tot them up quite quickly. Meditation and yoga, that's an interesting one. Do you know what? I can't concentrate enough to meditate. I find it really, really difficult to concentrate for long periods or even short periods. I love reading, and unfortunately, I can't even read. Apparently there's a Japanese word for buying books and then not reading them. It's a genuine thing in Japan. But I order books, and my bookshelf is full of books I'd love to be able to read. And I've got 3 or 4 by my bedside cabinet, 3 or 4 by the side of the settee, which I've read bits from. But I can't concentrate for long enough. It's so frustrating. Yeah, it's a tricky one, really. But I'm still,
It's really interesting to hear because actually, a lot of people are struggling with, should I eat differently? Should I stop alcohol? Should I do this? Should I stop gluten? Should I exercise more? What type of exercise? Should I do meditation? What type of meditation? So it's interesting to see that actually for someone who's gone through the illness for so long, that actually you don't have a secret sauce from those angles at least.
No, what I would like to say is that I did used to drink a lot and regularly, but now that's through my teens, 20s and 30s and probably 40, up to my 40s as well. But recently, I've just fallen out of love with alcohol, and I'd much rather have a drink of Vimto or coffee. I mean, I haven't given up. I haven't consciously given up. I just don't drink alcohol, and because I get tired during the day, and I'm lively now, but I have to after my lunch. I think maybe I'm turning a bit Spanish because I always have a bit of an hour's siesta. I have sandwiches that Viv has very kindly made for me and put in the fridge for lunch. But after I've had my sandwiches and a piece of fruit, I need a snooze for 45 minutes or so.
Yes.
And I curl up on the sofa, and then I'm back in the room after 45 minutes. And
the best moment of the day.
yeah. Well, it's not. It's when you realize you got to go back and do an afternoon of work.
So I just wanted to move on to a different topic entirely, but I think you're quite interested in health tech or health technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Is there something that already exists that you really like, or is there something that you wished existed and that you would really want to have?
Well, I always wished, and this is years and years and years ago, that there was some device that could tell you how much medication you had left in your system, like a petrol gauge, which is on, that was able to tell when you need to take your next dose, because obviously everybody's system is different, which is, I mean, please, everybody, don't take this to heart, but I take my meds when I personally think I need them, because I know my body. I've been self-medicating since I was 10 years old. I've been on L-Dopa, first of all, Cinemat, now Madapar, since I was 10 years old. And I get to know exactly when my body's getting low, but that's through my own experience. So sometimes I get it wrong, but that could be down to stress. It could be down to something I've eaten. It could be that I haven't moved my bowels. There are a number of reasons for that. But if there was a device that you could take, or you could monitor your meds, and you could say, right, okay, yeah, I'm getting into the empty zone. I need to have a top up. That would be so useful.
Yes.
But with the DBS, the system that I've got, which is great, I have a rechargeable battery. DBS is brilliant, by the way. It saved my life. If I'm on the right settings, I cannot move or hardly speak at all. Period. So that it's helped. I mean, I can't even get in a wheelchair. I'm quite off that. When I had my battery changed, it was the wrong settings, and I couldn't. When I was off, I used to crawl. When it was on the wrong settings, I couldn't even crawl. I was just stuck. And even with my strength that I've got, I couldn't even move myself. So that was scary. So that DBS is fantastic for me. But they have the system I've got, it's got like a 3-bar system. But what I wasn't told originally, I know now, is the first section is maybe, it's the sections aren't equal, by the way. The 3 bars. The first section is about, I think, if you didn't, it's about a quarter. The next section is like a half, and the bottom section is a quarter. So if you go off the top section, you're okay. If you're in the middle section, you're okay. If you're in the bottom section, it's time for, you might get into difficulties, if that makes sense. I haven't really explained that very well, but
no.
But that would be my main thing, and it doesn't. As far as I know, the petrol gauge for your meds doesn't exist, sadly. I wish it did. I really wish it did.
So someone actually is making a comment that will lead perfectly into my next question. Someone called Florencia, who is a very good friend, who is in Uruguay, says, Matt's good mood is amazing. What is his secret? And Gary Lee says, I don't know, but if you could bottle it, I could sell it and would make a fortune.
No, do you know what? Having come from some pretty dark places and realized that it actually doesn't help my symptoms, I made a conscious decision many years ago, but it's coming to more fruition now, that I'm not going to be sad. There's no point being sad, because it just makes my condition worse. And when you're bad, you have more time to think about things that might happen in the future, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Exactly.
But also, I think, and the probably the thing for me is, people tend to leave you alone if you're feeling sad. people don't engage with you as much. If you're happy and gregarious and out, hey, look at me, you know, I don't go, look, hello, look at me. I just love to interact with lots of different people. And when people smile back at you, it's like, it's such a great feeling.
Recharging your own batteries.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite, well, it's one of the things I put in my talks, actually, say, you know, when people go on holiday to recharge their batteries, well, I do it 20 minutes every day. So I have like a 20-minute holiday every day, if you like.
So you describe yourself as a positivity activist and a possibilist. Possibilist is an interesting word. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, a possibilist is a phrase I heard at a conference in Chicago in 2019. And I describe myself as that is because I'm a change maker. I'm a kind of an innovator, I'm a disruptor, and I dream of all sorts of different positive things that can happen. And I think I've got to the stage in my life, I'm only a youngster, really, that I used to toe the line and really say what other people expected me to say, rather than speak my own truth or what I genuinely believed in. I used to say what people wanted, what I thought people wanted to hear. Now I don't, and it makes a big difference. Now I say what, and hopefully I say it with a smile on my face so people take me seriously as well. I'm never aggressive or anything like that. It's just so strange. People's reaction when you're positive, and you can make change. It's like I am exactly the same now with you guys on this call as I would be with some top brass from the company that, or top brass from pharma companies like AbbVie or whoever, because I don't think there's any point in being a different person to different groups of people. I'm exactly the same. If people don't like me, then that's up to them. I used to have a problem with people. Ooh, have I upset them, or do they not like me anymore? And I used to get quite sort of intense about the fact that people might not like what I've got to say or might disagree with me now, because, and it helps being trained as a lawyer as well, actually, for debating techniques. I'm able to stand, I feel confident enough to stand my ground now. Whereas when I was younger, I didn't have the confidence. So, yeah, I think I want things to change. I get so frustrated by the slowness of what's going on. And I have to say, and maybe this is something I shouldn't really have said, and this is actually to do with Parky life, and looking back now, it kind of looks like emotional blackmail, but it really wasn't. I said, I want things to happen now, because I really don't know. I've got to stop doing a Trump there. Trump handshake, not the kind of Trump. I want change now because I want to see the results of what I'm doing, see the positive results of what I'm doing, because I know I know people love it, but for me, it's not moving quick enough.
Yes. And
for me, apart from bureaucracy, there's no reason why it shouldn't be.
Talking about sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, sorry. All I was going to say, this is why I have so many plans for Parky Life, which obviously you wanted to ask me, but
let's just talk about it as we're touching on this actually. But before we do that, you were just talking about the slowness of change sometimes, and I'm just really wondering how you view the way PD changed in your lifetime. I mean, at least over the last maybe 40 years or 20 years. For you and in the greater PD world. So what I mean by that, for instance, is that there has been an increase in awareness from the population with people like Michael J. Fox, who did a great job basically taking that illness to the front and making it more understood. The fundraising, the use of social media, there are a lot of groups now for people to talk to other PWPs. But actually, how do you feel it has changed in your lifetime?
It's changed phenomenally, and one of the main reasons is because people can actually communicate with each other. I went for over 20 years not even knowing anybody else who had Parkinson's. It was before, so social media's made a huge difference. It's democratizing, it's globalizing the whole community. I mean, I would ask anybody in this call 10 or so years ago, how many people did you know, apart from people in your local area with Parkinson's? I would say probably not many. No. But now there's a whole world of people. I have made some amazing friends and some amazing connections, not only patients and people, but friends of people with Parkinson's. I've made really good friends of healthcare professionals, of physiotherapists, of teachers, all kinds of people, which I didn't know about 20 years ago. And there's no way I would have known. But there's so much going on. But I think it's access to this information anyway that's the key. Yes. We have access to so much information. Not all of it's brilliant, I have to say, but it's the access, it's the social. People can get socially isolated so easily with Parkinson's. But with digital, there's so many channels where you can communicate with people. The whole thing is unrecognizable from years ago.
It's amazing that you put that perspective, because actually few of us will remember how things were 20 years ago when it comes to Parkinson's. So it's amazing to know that actually you didn't know anyone at that stage.
Not a single person, no.
Let's focus on Parky Life, because I'm really interested to know more about it. Actually, I've read, of course, a tiny bit about it on the website, but actually, I'm just curious about what is it and what inspired you to create this movement.
What inspired me to create this movement was the fact that I saw so many people who were embarrassed and ashamed of showing their symptoms in public, which I kind of get, but I have never had the opportunity to hide away. It's like, no, I can't go and read at this event because I can't stand up. Okay, we'll get you a chair then. So, and there was never a get out. So I have never, ever been ashamed of having Parkinson's. And it's caused me some awkward situations without a shadow of a doubt. But I think if you get in there first and say, because we all know if we're walking down the street, people are looking at us, we all know that. But I would then turn around and say, well, don't you guys we all look at people who are moving differently or look slightly different. Yeah. We're trying to make, we're trying to make sense of the world. So this is where Parky Life came along. I wanted people to feel positive about themselves and about not be afraid, not have to hide away. It's liberating. It's a happy kind of project. And together we celebrate the little wins, the amusing stories, the people who've made a difference in the Parkyverse. It's just, and that includes sort of consultants. Obviously, Bas Bloom has his own card. You wouldn't get that in a normal pharma kind of project from an agency. We have speech therapists who have their own cards as well. It's celebrating in color and with humor the joy that you can get from being differently abled, if you like, because there's no doubt about it. It's a bloody horrible disease. We all know that. And we all face loads of challenges. But if you can get people on your side, which is what Parky Life does with when people have done all these illustrations for free, some really, really talented artists from all over the world have donated their skills and their time just to help the cause. Now, the other day, now obviously one of the biggest things that we find is being accused of being drunk. Hence my T-shirt that I'm wearing that I don't know the community, and I make no apologies for the language. It says, "I'm not pissed, I've got Parkies." Now that has brought more smiles to more faces than any piece of clothing I've ever worn, apart from those sandals that I wore in when I was about 7, I think maybe quite a few people. But it's not taking yourself too seriously. For example, we sponsored a beer at a local beer festival that took place recently, and we produced some beer mats, which have a few versions here. This is, if I can, I can't. One says plastered, and then you can see that it's like a Heineken one. Parky Life, serving up Parky positivity by the pintful. Now, there's another one, IPA, which stands for It's Parkinsons, all right? I've only had half a pint. Parky Life, serving up Parky positivity. Now, it's things like this that, I mean, it helped me tremendously because I was actually part of the organising committee for the beer festival anyway, through my local Rotary Club. And I was having lots of drinks and lots of tokens put on my table to buy beers. And every time I staggered to the bathroom to relieve myself, I just pointed to my T-shirt. And by the end, I didn't know whether I was drunk or not. And I don't think anybody else did either. They just took what it said as gospel. But these beer mats were so, and here's another one. This people might think this is hard hitting, but this says legless. And it says, actually, I'm not pissed. I just have Parkinson's. And these little tokens bring a smile to people's faces because they're not expecting them. And Parky Life as well is there to bust the myth that Parkinson's is an old man's disease as well.
Yeah.
Which,
so Matt, this is amazing. Yes, this is, sorry, carry on. I don't want to interrupt you, but actually it's amazing to hear you talk about the development of Parky Life, and it makes me wonder about what are the next other projects that you might have. And someone asked, Gary, I think, was asking, yes, is Matt going to write a book? There is enough material, that's for sure.
Yes. Well, one of the ways I deal with my own sort of daily kind of, I don't know, not chores, but daily grind, if you like, is by writing about them. I think I wrote my last one was about making a cup of coffee, and it couldn't have been more. I mean, it's something everyday people just do. They just do it. But people with Parkinson's, like me, and like a lot of the people on this call, really struggle. But the list of kind of things that happened when I was actually making the cup of coffee got so comical that I thought, I'm not going to get angry about this. I'm just going to write it down and share it and see if it amuses everybody else. And I think that's how I deal with it, because I don't want to go back to having to think, I've spilled another cup of coffee. I'm going to hit myself in the chops. No chance. Those days are way gone. So in answer to your question, probably yes. Because I do like writing. In fact, I've just written a piece for the Parliamentary Scientific Committee about living with Parkinson's. And that's getting edited at the moment then that'll go to all MPs and scientific committees, all members of the House of Lords. Not that they'll read it, but I hope they do. Then they might get some idea of what it's like.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So I'm going on a bit. I do
looking at the next 5 years. Do you have any big hopes, or is there something you would be looking forward to? There's a lot of research being done right now. We can see a lot of focus on ways to try to slow down the disease. Or
I'm hopeful, but I actually don't look ahead after. I'm actually looking to, if I wake up tomorrow and I'm okay, I go day by day. I don't look that far forward, because although I live in hope, this might not be what you guys want to hear. I'm sorry to hear that, but I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be around when there's a cure or when there's going to be life. I mean, DBS is for me just the best, but it's not for everybody. I think duodopa, I think it's quite good as well, but it's not ideal. I think things are moving exponentially, which is fantastic. So I'm never going to say never, but in the next 5 years, I don't think there's anything. So I know how long things take to get to market.
Yes.
So I would rather focus on living positively with the symptoms of Parkinson's and trying to lessen them through through nutrition, through movement, through activity and through positivity, because I think that will help you just as much while you're living with the disease.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you what your biggest advice was for our audience, but I think you just gave it to us now.
I think the biggest advice is stay put. Never ever be ashamed of showing your Parkinson's to somebody, because if they don't get it, they're not worth knowing anyway.
Yes.
And I genuinely mean that. I was told, and just the last, I was told to take that I'd got Parkinson's off my CV. So I said, no, why should I? He said, Matthew, people, you've got a brilliant CV, you've done loads of things, you've traveled all over the world. Take off, you've got Parkinson's. I said, why? He said, because you won't even get an interview. So I said, well, if I don't even get an interview, then I don't really want to work for those companies anyway.
I think things have been changing over time as well. I think that nowadays, I mean, companies do want diversity and making a conscious effort, hopefully, to maybe not all of them, but some of them to be more diverse and inclusive.
Yeah, so never ever, don't be ashamed. Celebrate your little wins. I think that's a great thing. It's like if I manage to make a coffee without spilling it all over the floor, that's a win-win for me. And I might made up. If you know, I think we have to be realistic. We're not going to live forever. Nobody lives forever anyway. But the older you get, the less resilience you get. So I would say try and be as resilient for as long as you can.
Yes.
And that would be my advice. And be happy. Try and say enjoy what you can do. But remember, you need to rest as well.
Absolutely. The 45-minute siesta after the meal.
Yes, but yes. Always become Spanish or any of the other nations that like a little snooze in the afternoon, because it does work.
Two very important questions. The one actually from Mark that Simon was asking earlier, are the t-shirts or beer mats available?
Actually, these are the only ones I have. They're only produced for the beer festival. However, that's one of the things I'm pushing for more to be printed for the website. So watch this space, please.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's one thing you need for with Parkinson's. You need patience, just like doctors do. Doctors need patience.
And the last question is probably the most important one. It's about your mustache. We would like to know if it's just for November or if it's going to be staying there for good.
No, not if my wife has anything to do with it. I actually grew it the last couple of weeks in October. I was invited to a friend's 50th, and it was a 1980s fancy dress theme, so I decided to go as Freddie Mercury. So I got the whole outfit with a yellow jacket.
You didn't do Village People, did you?
Yeah, well, I could have been the Village People. Don't ask me why. Maybe it's the woman in the inner woman inside me. I don't know, but no, I've never ever grown a mustache in my life. Not even when I was a young kid. Never ever grown. I've always had like a line. So yes, I have grown it for November. It is a talking point, and I would encourage everybody to sort of talk, particularly the man in there, not to bottle things up and sort of talk about. If you're not feeling at your best, talk to somebody.
Yeah. Matt, thank you very, very much. We are just stopping just on the dot. Actually, I feel like a Swiss clock, but there is partly the fact that actually this interview was so smooth and so pleasant that actually we just covered quite a lot of ground in just 1 hour. I'd like to thank you. I mean, if you want to have a look at the chat afterwards, there are so many compliments about, wow, Matt is very inspirational. People are just basically so enthused by your positivism and your possibilism.
What I do like is people smiling in the audience who've got like and I'm sure other people, but it's so positive. It makes you feel good when I'm not acting like I'm just being my normal self, but when you interact with an audience, it's great to see people's faces, and it's great to see that it's, you know, I'm an enthusiastic kind of guy, you know, and I would always encourage everybody else, don't be afraid of whatever you look like, however you're feeling. I mean, quite often before meetings, Michelle, I do say to my colleagues, I might disappear off the side of the camera if I get disconnected, and sometimes it happens, but I'm not going to not put my camera on. So sorry, guys, you don't have to look at my ugly face.
I can say, Matt, you were perfectly centered during the whole interview, so well done.
I don't think I stopped talking for much of it as well. Thank you very much, and thank you everybody in the audience for listening and bearing with me as well. So thank you
so much. Good night to everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Cheers, Matt. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. See you, mate. Bye.
Cheers, Gary. Bye now.